Hey, Solid Source, it's Jeff Henderson, and welcome back to part 3 of our series. And what I believe for you is that you've got some good intentions, some great intentions for your business. You've got some great intentions about how your business can serve you and the people that you serve. I think I hope you've got some dreams and some hopes and some wishes that you can turn those good ideas and good intentions into reality. I hope you have a dream for your business. I really do believe that you do. But you know this, a dream without action is a nightmare. That's a really good line. I'm going to say it again. A dream without action is a nightmare. You don't want a nightmare for your business. So what we've been talking about in this series is how do you take these good ideas, turn them into reality, and sustain them? And in the middle of all this, how do you do this when you're already incredibly busy, not just with business, but with life in general? Well, that's where we're going to go in part 3 today. And I simply call part 3 plus one. And here's what I mean by plus one. Typically, you ever done this? Let's say it's like January, beginning of the year, right? And this is the year you're going to get in shape. You ever done this, right? And you haven't worked out for the last 3 months. So what you're going to do is you're going to take those last 3 months and you're going to put it all in one workout. Have you ever done that before? And you put 3 months of workouts into a 2-hour workout. Do you know what happens the next day? You can't get out of bed, right? But that's our thinking. We're going to make up for lost time by cramming in what we should have been doing into one day. But we know that doesn't work. What if we could apply really great habits into our lives? Here's the great thing about habits. When you apply great small habits over time, they grow. Now, I read this book recently I would highly recommend called Atomic Habits. Atomic Habits, the author is James Clear. And he had this interesting quote. He said that we don't rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our habits. What do I mean by that? Well, let's say, and you know this, let's say that I want to have a goal of being financially free, debt-free, in the year ahead or whatever, however that works. But my habits are I'm going to overspend, I'm not going to save for retirement, all that. My habits, I can have a dream, but ultimately it's going to be a nightmare because I'm not taking any action. But becoming debt-free, if you will, is a gigantic thing. I totally understand that. But what you have to do is you have to plus one it, all right? You have to plus one it. Dave Ramsey would say you have to take baby steps. So let's talk about growing your business this year in a plus one format. I want to talk to you about how to do that. I've got some examples here. But the first idea I want to give you is, and I know so many of you, you're going to probably roll your eyes when I just tell you this question, but sometimes, as Mark Twain said this, I love this quote. Mark Twain said that we often don't need new information. We just need to be reminded of what we already know. So I want to give you a few plus one examples. And I want to start with maybe the best business question you can ask your current clients. All right? Who do you know that I need to know? Who do you know that I need to know? And just be silent. And typically I would get a name of someone. Call this person. They might be interested to help. So I'm not saying you have to do all of these, but you've got to do at least one of them, right? That's why I'm calling it plus one. All right, so what would it look like to do this? What if every day you make one more phone call? That's it. It's a plus one. Maybe you get to the end of the day, you're like, I have been so busy, but okay, I've got to plus one a phone call. I got to plus one a phone call. How about this one? One more ask. One more ask. Asking something of a client, asking something of your team, or asking something of someone to help grow the business. Again, if you're watching this today and you haven't asked anybody this question, who do you know that I need to know? Who do you know that I can call? Who do you know that I can recruit, in essence, basically? If you haven't done that, this is a way to make that request. Now, if you're going to ask big, I tell my kids, if you're going to ask big, you're going to get some no's. But keep pushing through that. For example, a few years ago, I read this really cool biography from Warren Buffett, one of the richest men in the world. So I actually wrote him a letter and said, Mr. Buffett, it was an autobiography. I read your autobiography. I loved it. I'm a pastor. I'd love to fly out to Omaha and meet with you. I'm not going to ask you for money. That's not what this is about. I have 3 questions I want to ask you. And I'll take 15 minutes of your time. But I'm so impressed. If I could just, iron sharpens iron. If I could just spend 15 minutes with you, that'd be awesome. Well, I end up getting a letter back from Warren Buffett. And it said, "Dear Jeff, no." But I have a letter from Warren Buffett and you don't. And the reason you don't is because you haven't asked him, right? Keep asking. And that's what plus one is all about. But that's a business part of this. So let me give you some plus ones. We've talked about we want to grow your business, but we want to grow you personally as well. What about plus one in your friendships? Are there friendships in your life that people are adding more value to you than you're adding to them? Here's what I've decided in my life. I'm never going to let the balance of the friendship get overweighed. I'm going to try to plus one that friendship. Now, it's not a competition. It's not a game. It's not I'll do this for you if you do this for that for me. That's not what this is about. But I don't want the relationships in my life to get one-sided, that people are adding way too much value to me than I am adding to them. As we talk about owning a space in the land of possibility, the reality is we can dream big, but we can act small. To wrap up a few examples. Today, before you go to bed at night, ask somebody, who do you know that I need to know? Plus one a friend. Plus one by reading a chapter in a book. Plus one, take a little bit of action. But if you will be consistent, I think we'll discover that James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, is right. That we don't rise to the level of our goals, although goals are great. We fall to the level of our habits. And you show me a successful business owner, and I'll show you someone who has consistently plus one their business and will continue to do that. That's how you got here, by the way, Solid Source. 2003 to now, Michelle and you consistently delivered to your clients. So let's go above and beyond. Let's plus one and let's live in the land of possibility. So I've given you a few things to think through, but I want you to think through, what are you going to plus one in the next week, month, quarter ahead? And then we'll see you to close out the series in part 4.